right, we welcome you back to Night Talk. We proudly welcome Bill Stubbs to the program. Architectural Digest calls him one of the top interior designers in the world. He has designed mansions and penthouses and so much more all around the world. Written 2 books, including the upcoming Moment of Luxury, Discovering the Beauty Around You, and is the creator and host of Moment of Luxury, launching on public television this month. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Mike, it's so great to be here. I mean, this is pretty exciting for me to have a television show, because I don't think of myself as a person in the television business, and so it's premiering this week, and this is a very exciting time for me.
Well, you're in the TV business now. What's the biggest surprise to you about television so far?
Well, I think for me, the first thing in shooting the episode was that it was shot out of context, and that just like completely threw me. The first thing we were doing, our first episode takes place in Paris. The concept of the show is, I'm just inviting you, Mike, to come along with me on a trip to Paris. We're going to see some great hotels, we're going to eat some great food, we're going to shop, and then we're going to come home and kind of bring that home. And so in this first episode, I'm at my favorite hotel in Paris. It's the St. James Hotel, which is a little chateau in the heart of Paris. Mm-hmm. And I drive up in a beautiful Jaguar convertible, mm-hmm. and it's sweet. But it's shot out of context. So the first shoot was in the staircase of the hotel, and I'm in this beautiful lobby of this hotel, and they finally, the patience that it takes to get all these cameras set and the lights set, and I'm standing on the staircase, and they go, action. And I go, this is my favorite hotel in Paris, the St. James. And they go, cut. Bill, you can't say that. I said, well, why? And they said, you're going to say that 2 days from now on the front steps. And I said, well, what do I say now? And they said, well, say notice the molding. So we go back to the whole thing, and I go, notice the molding? And they go, cut. Bill, we're going to need a little more energy.
Somewhere between there and there.
Yeah, exactly. So then I began to understand that opening sequence, which takes about 1:30, mm-hmm. is me driving in, walking up the steps, describing my favorite hotel, ending up on the staircase in the lobby. And it took us 3 days to shoot that.
Well, some actors will tell you when they're doing some of these grand, romantic films, they'll start shooting with the love scene in the boudoir with somebody they just met 15 minutes ago. And then at the end of the shoot, they're doing the nice to meet you scene.
Yes, exactly.
At the very beginning. But this show was your idea. You created this.
Yes, that's true. It's true.
And what's the basic premise behind it?
The premise behind it is that I've worked as an interior designer all over the world, and I've noticed that luxury only happens a moment at a time. And so the reason for that is that, think about it. If you have, let's say, the most comfortable bed you've ever slept in, you only really appreciate it the second you slip in between the sheets and lay down, mm-hmm. and you go, oh, this is wonderful. So I began to think, well, if it's only a moment at a time, how can we expand that? And what does luxury really mean to people? And so I go around and I ask people, what is luxury to you? Because it's something different for everybody. It's mm-hmm. not necessarily spending a lot of money. And so that's really the story of the show. It's not Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It is about finding luxury and learning how to appreciate it.
You mentioned different types of luxury appreciated mm-hmm. by people. When you talk to people, for clients, for instance, what is the one thing that can you generalize? Is there one thing that most people say, this is what I have to have?
Well, for me, luxury, if I describe luxury is a Friday night with friends laughing. Mm. So, what's more luxurious than that?
That's a necessity.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to get to that. So I think that most of when my clients describe to me, they come to an interior designer, and so they're describing to me things. And I try to get back to feelings, because to me, the things that we build around them, the house, the roof, all the luxurious accoutrements that go in them, it's really just a stage set for some kind of activity. So what's your activity? Is the person looking for, I want to come home from work, I want a comfortable place to sit, I want to be able to read, I want to have the right kind of light, that could be luxury. Mm-hmm. Some people love to entertain. They want a house that receives 100 people and they feel wonderful there. So there's all kinds of ways of looking at interior design and how do you want to live your life and what kind of experiences do you want to have in this environment.
How'd you get into this business? How old were you? Where were you?
Well, I was a kid in El Campo, Texas, and where I don't think they'd ever even heard of interior design. And so it's an interesting thing that I would get into it. As with many people who appreciate that, I was having a drink with Liz Smith last night. We're both from the same town in Texas, and when I read her book, there's a lot of similarities in being from a small town and experiencing the world through movies, and thinking of New York as Mecca and the place where everything happens. And of course, she came here very young and created a wonderful world for herself. And I had that same feeling, and so I thought that that New York and the world of movies was really incredible.
Well, it's interesting because so many of us, even those of us who grew up, in the environs, always had the same movie perception of it. But we have to take a break, come back, continue the story and the development of this, I think, going to be a hit program.
Thank you.
Back with Bill Stubbs in a moment. Don't go away.
Welcome to the Paris Flea Market. This is one of my favorite spots in Paris. It's just outside of Paris in Saint-Ouen, and it's visited by over 150,000 people a weekend. It's the largest flea market in the world. The first stop you need to make in the flea market is at Camard, who's a shipper. There's several shippers in the flea market. I use Camard. You pick up this envelope, they give you these tags, you put them on each piece of furniture as you buy it, you negotiate your best price, and then they pick it up and pay for it, and then you stop off at the end of the trip and pay for all your goods. It's a real simple way to shop. This is a designer secret.
Designer secret, you see? A secret no more. Bill Stubbs, Moment of Luxury on PBS, and the book coming out in the fall.
That's right.
Correct? That is one of the great secrets you're sharing with us, that luxury doesn't necessarily have to be expensive.
That's right. It's true. Now, I've been working, I have a very varied career as an interior designer. I just finished a $100 million private jet. And then I also am working on affordable housing in an area of Miami. So I think that's about as extreme a distance as you can travel in terms of how do you take things and does it take a lot of money to really create luxury and to have something that's of good design? And I don't think that's so. I think that, to me, the challenge of providing it when there are a lot of budget constraints is more creative than it is when you have plenty of money.
Interesting. So take me, we had to go to break there. You're talking about your perception of New York as a kid in Texas, watching the movies.
Right. It's true.
And that propelled you?
Well, it prepared me to get into the design business. I was artistic in high school and won some awards and some scholarships and things based on art. But I was smart enough to know that I'd probably never support myself as an artist. And so I looked for something where I could use that. And early in my career, I worked for real estate developers, doing large apartment buildings and high-rises and things like that, and making all the selections for the interiors.
For the models?
Yeah, for the models and the common areas, the lobbies, the sales offices, and things like that. And that was, once again, a very nice exercise because there's a tight budget. Even if it's a fabulous building, they want you to stick to the budget. It's about the bottom line. And it was a good educational background for also things had to be completed. When the building was ready and it was time to move tenants in, that was the drop-dead deadline. And so I learned how to do that. And then as my developer clients became more affluent, they began to ask me to do their homes, and one thing led to another, and then I began to doing a lot of homes around the world.
Well, the around the world part fascinates me. What was the first time you got called overseas?
Well, I did a pretty extreme project in the Ukraine right after the fall of the former Soviet Union. And I was one of the first interior designers in that country because there hadn't been a nice home built there in 70 years. And it was an incredible experience. There was no infrastructure for buying materials or finding anything, and there were very few people who knew how to do quality construction. So it was a great experience.
Well, the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, everything was
like
stacked against me. There was no phone book. So I was over there really doing something that was untried. During that period of time, I was deported and arrested, and my first book talks a little bit about that. They call it Indiana Jones Meets Interior Design because it was a rough place to, when you're...
That's I Hate Red, You're Fired?
Yes, exactly. When your interior designer needs a bodyguard and a bulletproof Mercedes, you're in a rough neighborhood. So that was my experience over there.
And is this a business where word of mouth really is the big
it's the whole thing? Yeah.
Jet propulsion there?
Right. Word of mouth and being published is another big part of that. I have a wonderful relationship with Architectural Digest, and they published the project in the Ukraine in all the various languages that magazine is published in.
And when somebody sees that, they say, well, first of all, it's a credibility builder, but secondly, it also is a wonderful way with great photographs to say, wow, look at what this guy can do.
Exactly. I always say that being an Architectural Digest is like winning an Academy Award to an actor.
I believe
it really is great. And Paige Rentz, the editor-in-chief, has been very nice to me and very supportive and helpful. And so she sort of encourages me to do better and better projects so that they can end up in the magazine.
When you do something, though, I was going to say overseas, but even within the United States, tastes and styles and prevailing opinions can be so different from state to state, region to region. How do you know where to go with it?
For me, the whole thing is driven by the personality of the client. I hope there's no Bill Stubbs look because I really want. I've had a number of experiences where my clients have walked in. I typically don't let them see anything. The few weeks before we finish, I go in and get everything ready and then present it to them. And I've had a number of occasions where they've walked in and gone, this looks just like me, but I didn't know I looked this good. And that's what I want. That's what I'm after. I'm after capturing their personality, things about themselves, and expanding it into a great environment that serves and nurtures them.
So if I were, say, a new potential customer, client, and I say, Bill, I just bought myself this, 10,000 square foot home. How would you follow that up? What do you do after that?
What I would do is I'd spend a lot of time with you, and I'd want to come to your office, and I'd want to come to your existing home. And oftentimes people will say there's usually some transition into a new, grander environment. And they'll say, no, my current house has nothing to do with what I want the new one to look like. So it's irrelevant for you to come. It's not. I usually find there's usually something there. I'll find, an old baseball glove, a trophy of your dad's, or, there'll be something there that'll start my creative juices going about how we can celebrate who you are in this new environment, how it can be as sophisticated as you want it or as comfortable as you want it, but it could still celebrate what your personality is.
That's interesting because sometimes, you look at things and you'll say, well, how can I have a designer come here and do this? Because how are they going to know what I really want? I know what I want. How would they know what I want? But you're dealing with areas of psychology here.
Totally. Yeah. Being a designer is often like a psychologist. I interview one of my clients on one of the episodes coming up in the show, and I ask her. She and her husband very varied in terms of their styles that they like. He likes one thing, she likes another. She's very casual and kind of French in the things that she likes. He's kind of a buttoned-up New England guy that thinks everything should be kind of old and tatty and.
So you have a typical marriage. In other
typical
words,
marriage.
You got to find some way to preserve the harmony.
Yeah.
Let's once again leave it on that cliffhanger note. Come back with Bill Stubbs in a moment. Moment of luxury on PBS. We're coming right back.
Notice all the opulent details in this great theater. The color is wonderful. That rich burgundy, the beautiful blue velvet seats, and the gold elements that are just enough to not be garish, but still have that traditional feeling. When I walk into a great old theater, I always look up because there's something wonderful on the ceiling. Well, they didn't forget that in Seraphin Hall. You have this constellation of stars that's done with technology of fiber optics. And if you watch, about every 5 minutes you see a shooting star.
Back once again, Bill Stubbs, Moment of Luxury. That's some nice stuff going on.
Thank you, yes.
Now, where are you there?
This is at Hobby Center in Houston. One of the goals that I had in the show is to bring you to Houston and show you the Houston that nobody knows. And so we're doing a lot of interesting things in Houston. There's only 1 or 2 episodes that actually take place in Houston. Sometimes we go back to my house, and you see my house, and you see what I've taken from these journeys that we've had and how I've incorporated into my own life. In this particular episode, I'm showing you some of the arts in Houston, and I'm telling you stories of how I remember taking my 6-year-old daughter to the ballet, and how my mom and I had season tickets, and you're going to find out a lot about me, whether you want to or not, in this show.
Well, I think we want to. And the music there is beautiful. I mean, this is a class show you got going here.
It's shot in high def. When we say moment of luxury, you're going to feel moment of luxury. This show has texture and depth, and the music, the score is done by Peter Fish, and he did such a beautiful job on this, of bringing light and heart to it through the music. So it's a well-produced show.
Excellent. Now, we went to break. We were talking about the way that you, I guess, the great conciliator,
yes,
managed to bring husband and wife together to agree when they seem so different. You have the button-down New England guy, and you got, got the button-down New England guy, you got the woman who likes the French stuff.
Well, I asked her, I said, how am I doing? And she said, as a marriage counselor, you're the best. Because it's true, there is bringing these two together. She wanted brick floors. He wanted hardwood floors. He wants hardwood floors with old Oriental rugs.
So they got brick floors.
And so what they have is this beautiful French stone, terracotta stone floor that's bound in wood. And so I brought the two of them together.
So physically, you found a way to
appeal to both of them through the, I'm an artist who paints with a certain kind of brush. In this case, it was terracotta and wood, and because the two of them needed it, and they're very, very happy with that combination.
What's the largest project you've ever worked on?
The largest project. Well, we're getting to, I think that we're experiencing right now the second Gilded Age in America. Because of what I do for a living, I've studied the Gilded Age of the turn from the 1800s to the 1900s, and what was happening with the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers and the mansions of Newport and all of those things. And early in my career in the 70s, those houses were eyesores. I mean, they were being torn down.
Oh, yeah.
No one knew what to do with them. The families that were inheriting them had no way of caring for them. But we're experiencing that again.
Your flagship station out on Long Island, all those beautiful mansions that used to exist on the north shore of the island, very few of them are left. I mean, those are the ones that were the template for the Great Gatsby, for crying out loud.
Yes, of course. And so what I'm experiencing now is we're in the next Gilded Age, and there's a cycle to it. It's an interesting cycle, because what was happening in the late 1900s with Rockefellers and Astors and those people is they were acquiring. They were building these mansions. They were buying everything in Europe. They were hauling it all back here, and then it went into a period of great philanthropy. Where hospitals and colleges and libraries and all kind. And I think that's the stage we're in now, where you see Warren Buffett giving away huge amounts of money. Bill Gates giving away huge amounts of money. So we've passed the point of accumulation, and now we're seeing this great philanthropy. I think it's a wonderful time to be alive. I think it's a great time to be in the business that I'm in. It's exciting. There will always be struggles that we're all struggling with as humans in this place, but there's a lot of great things that are happening right now.
What ultimately do you wish to accomplish with the show?
What I would like to think is that we live a very hectic life. And I would like to think that for 30 minutes every week, you can come on a trip with me, and we will have so much fun, and we'll laugh, and there'll be something that you can take away that you can say, you know what, I could do that today. Not tomorrow, not next time I can plan a trip to Paris, but there's something that I could do today to add a little bit of luxury and comfort to my life.
With what we see happening in the world now, and the wealth that you mentioned, Ukraine, the former Soviet republics that are now independent states where there's
yes.
substantial wealth. Asia, do you think that more and more business will be overseas for you?
Absolutely. There's no question that the Pacific Rim is in my future, that places like Dubai are in my future. There is quite a robust consumer society out there, and they're searching for luxury, and I love providing it.
When they look, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Exactly. When they look at luxury, do they look at it the way most Americans look at it? Do they wish to emulate the American model, or are they decidedly unique in their own approaches?
I think there is definitely unique niches to all of this. There are cultural differences. Certainly, as I work with, I have Russian clients, and they have a different kind of a spin to it. But all of it, what I bring to the party is to try to bring it down to a personal level, so that you're not just creating some big hall with furniture lined up around the room where you can't have a conversation with two people. I try to bring things down and create spaces that have a conversation to them.
So there's some humanity.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter whether it's Asia, Dubai, someplace in Russia. It once again comes back to what you're doing over here, dealing with the personalities and the psychologies of these people.
Yeah, and it's the relationship. It's the idea of I think there's in a nouveau rich environment, and I don't mean that in a negative way, is that there's a lot of creativity that comes around, and what I hope that I bring is a maturity to the idea of creating these spaces, so that we've gone past creating something that's just I own this and you can point at it, to a place where let's sit down and enjoy it.
Okay. Well, we enjoyed this sit down, and we look forward to seeing you on the program. Bill Stubbs, thanks so much.
Mike, this was great. Thank you so much.
Bill Stubbs, Moment of Luxury on your local PBS station. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.